Well, this park will be here for eternity. And it all began with the idea and desire of one man.
He was proud to be a McKinney boy. He loved high school in McKinney and his classmates.
Vietnam was a very unpopular war, but R.D. Foster had a sense of adventure when he was in high school, and he had read about some of the atrocities that the communists had committed.
He and his best friend, Bill Bryan, both signed up together. One of the inspirations for him to sign up is he wanted to see the world, and he also was concerned. And so when he got over there, he had a mission to stay alive, but he wanted to go over there and make a difference. He was inspired. And he chose the Marines because in his eyes, after all the books that he'd read, they were the best. And he thought, well, if I'm going to go over there, I'm going to be trained by the best. I want to be a Marine.
Bill Bryan and I were friends. Bill and I grew up together here in McKinney. Although back then McKinney was a small country town, nothing like it is today. Bill and I played football together, we played baseball together, we played guitars together, we chased girls together. In June of 1966, we graduated from McKinney High School. 2 weeks later, we got on a train together, headed to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California. For two 18-year-old small town boys, had never been more than a couple of 100 miles away from home before, we were off on a great adventure. Boot camp was tough, but so were we. We made it, and we earned the title, United States Marine. We'd come a long way in just a few short weeks, and our lives would never be the same again.
Years later, my husband ran into a classmate, and the classmate basically said, I remember you and Bill signed up together, and you guys were both in Vietnam. And he said, whatever happened to Bill?
Bill had been killed in Vietnam during the Tet Offensive in 1968. And this was some 30 years later. And R.D. said, he was killed in Vietnam, and darn you for forgetting that, although I don't think he said darn. And it was like a gut punch to him.
For an 18-year-old kid to put on the uniform and march off to war and never come back, to forget that person is just something that civilized human beings should not do.
His way of dealing with it was to go to the library.
He would spend hours down at the library on the microfilm, just going over everything, trying to find any information. And of course, Collin, when he came along, his wife Susan is a great research individual too, and so they as a team helped, but in the beginning it was just kind of haphazard. We'd get on the internet and he'd go down and look the microfilm, and so it was all over the place, but it was really his labor of love, and he would stay up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning just trying to go through stuff and all his notes.
And he identified 365 names, one woman and the rest men, going back to the First World War. And that became the genesis for him to organize an effort to build the memorial.
On April 4, 2005, a meeting was held in a conference room in the old library building in downtown McKinney. The meeting was arranged by newly elected City Councilman Bill Vitz and included John Kessel and members of the Parks Department of the City of McKinney. At that meeting, 4 average McKinney citizens, Linda Phillips, Vita Babb, Trina Foster, and myself, came prepared to persuade those officials that our hometown, the county seat of one of the most patriotic counties in America, was in need of a memorial to honor all those young men and women who were courageous enough to put on the uniform of the United States military and put their lives on the line in the service of our country. But especially those who went off to war and didn't come home, including some very good friends of mine and some good friends of a lot of us out here. Well, after a few minutes, I was totally delighted and completely surprised that we actually didn't have to fight City Hall at all. As a matter of fact, we didn't have to persuade anyone. Everyone in the room agreed. After 150 years of sending young men and women off to fight and die for freedom, it was time the city of McKinney paid tribute to those people.
Because it was 1.3, I think 1.3 million, somewhere around in that ballpark, which was way out of our realm. And so when we both heard that number, we both almost fell over. We were like, oh my gosh. But it people came on board just by little things would trickle in, and we used to set up tables, at different events and sell pavers to try to get the, word out there. And we'd set up a box and people would come by, and some people could put in $1, some people could put in $100, but it all adds up. I just can remember the night that we knew all the money was in. We were living in our apartment, and my husband came home from a meeting and he was just over the moon. It was going to get done. He always had faith, always had faith. It was never an option to fail, ever. Anybody who knows my husband, that's RD.
Well, I knew it was going to happen, but it was a long shot, and to raise $1 million, to me, that's just almost impossible wall to climb. But with a lot of people, a lot of help, we got there and we made it.
It's a beautiful park, and it is a great place to be peaceful and just have a place to sit and reflect. It's beautiful out there.
So the walkway is in the shape of a yellow ribbon that, people would tie on the trees, Each terminus of each little walkway has a pedestal with one of the service branches on there. The most recent addition is the Gold Star Memorial that you see behind me. And we positioned it, and you see the silhouette of a soldier saluting. And we positioned it so that soldier is actually saluting back towards the memorial. There were 365 names when the memorial was dedicated. There's now 437. The majority of those new names that have been added have been discovered from, prior conflicts. It entails a lot of research to identify these names, which is a process that's still ongoing. We have to have proof that they were from Collin County. They were either born here or they lived here when they enlisted, and that they died while they were serving.
The best way I can explain RD's dedication to keeping this effort alive is just days before his passing, he called me. And he called me to apologize that he would not be able to continue his work, and that it was his greatest regret that that there were families that he felt he was not going to be able to identify, veterans that he may not be able to identify, obviously, after he was gone. And it struck me so profoundly that this man who was knew that life is ending. He was at the end of his life, and his thought was how he was letting down veterans that he did not know. But he felt their story was important, that they were important.
They're not just names. And he wanted to make sure that any of those people, that there wasn't one left behind. Don't leave a brother behind.
On October 17th this year, our City Council approved renaming Veterans Memorial Park to Corporal R.D. Foster Veterans Memorial Park. This change not only honors R.D. Foster, but it as a very specific hero in our community, not just as someone who served, but someone who did all the things I talked about. But it will continue to reflect our deep gratitude to all the veterans and active service members of our country. Their sacrifices often beyond our understanding and comprehension.
RD would probably be the first one to say he didn't want the park named in his honor. However, this park would not exist had it not been for him. And we felt it was important to leave some legacy behind.
He was not a guy who boasted on himself. He was very humble, and everybody that knows him, humble is a great word to describe him. He I know would be very honored, very, very honored. But of course, he would never think of putting his name up there.
RD made this place happen, and I think it's absolutely fitting that the park is named in his honor so that people in the future can remember his contribution. Collin County is blessed in that the recognition of our patriots is very strong here. And these memorials are not only a testament to their patriotism, but to the patriotism of the community.
I love the idea that in 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, people will be compelled. Who is this man? And he deserves to be known. He deserves to be researched by generations to come. Because again, he embodies the greatest gift, spirit that any human being can have, and that is caring and compassion for others and serving others. And again, his life as a veteran, and then everything he did, literally to the days before his death, was about serving others, honoring others, and people need to know him.